My name is Lauren. I'm 33. I didn't want my identity to be the smoking mom. My first experience with Juul, I do remember being like, this is good. It's like a cigarette, but not. I don't miss smoking at all. Like, I can officially say it grosses me out.
Juul is the tobacco alternative that delivers nicotine satisfaction without cigarette ash or lingering odor. Make the switch at JUUL.com/sports.
Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
Wallace Lowe, the president of the University of Maryland, essentially went rogue.
DJ Durkin informed the players that he has been fired.
This is a step in the right direction.
So often lately, the power structure in college athletics has been so disheartening.
A young man's life is more important. A person's life.
I'm playing for, the guy upstairs.
How can we get these women a bigger chunk of that pie and get them paid?
The game looks fantastic, but we still have a marketing problem.
You can't follow something that you haven't seen.
We've got to figure out how we can do a better job connecting to young people and to get them to be interested in women's basketball.
What you see may change your perception of any sporting event. Get this, shoot this.
Welcome to Outside the Lines. I'm Ryan Smith in for Bob Lee. DJ Durkin now out as head coach at Maryland, and that's our big story today. One day. That's all it took for Maryland to pull an about-face almost as stunning as the initial decision to reinstate Durkin. Moments after Durkin's firing, the father of Jordan McNair, the 19-year-old offensive lineman who died of heat stroke in June following a workout session, expressed his thoughts on the move.
Obviously, there's a level of gratitude that Dr. Lowe made a decision to do the right thing as far as terminating Mr. Durkin. You heard me say before that, the right thing should be done. And I guess this, again, is a step in the right direction to do that.
That Dr. Lowe he was talking about is school president Wallace Lowe, who raised what he called in a statement serious concerns over Durkin's reinstatement, adding, the overwhelming majority of stakeholders expressed serious concerns about Coach DJ Durkin returning to the campus. He also called the decision to fire Durkin the right one for our entire university. A source telling ESPN Durkin was surprised by the decision. And while some players did support Durkin's return and others said the firing brought relief to the program, Jordan McNair's former roommate Johnny Jordan said this.
I'm not really playing for a head coach. I'm playing for, the guy upstairs who, we dedicated the season to, and I've dedicated the rest of my career and basically my life to.
Players' minds on their fallen teammate. Joining me now from the University of Maryland campus is ESPN college football and recruiting reporter Tom VanHaaren. So, Tom, what is the latest reaction on campus to this stunning about-face?
Well, the sentiment that we've gotten from a lot of the players is that they're ready to move on, and there's almost a sense of relief that this is finally over. You can imagine the emotional roller coaster these players have been on over the last 48 hours, thinking DJ Durkin is back and now once again fired. You played a clip there of Johnny Jordan. We spoke with him last night, and he added that he believes that this was the right decision to fire DJ Durkin for this university and for this football program to move forward, and that's the reaction mainly that we've gotten as a lot of players trickle out of the football team house behind me here today. We've seen a lot of smiling players, a lot of people upbeat, and a source told us that it seems like everything has gotten back to normal, and there's almost a sense that this team can now loosen up and get ready for Saturday's game.
We know that there were some people who favored Durkin, other people who did not. What is the sense in that locker room between the folks who wanted Durkin out and the guys who were in favor of keeping the coach?
Well, we were told when athletic director Damon Evans told the team that Durkin would be fired, there was no cry of outrage against the decision to fire him. There was no support for Durkin at that meeting. And from what we've been told as well, after the report surfaced, a lot of players seemingly read the report and now are in favor of the decision to have DJ Durkin leave the university. A lot of people saying that this has been a distraction to the players, something that they want to get behind them. And now, as I mentioned, a lot of the players saying they'll be able to focus on what they're here to do, and that's play football.
Tom, let me ask you about something that's been sort of vexing a lot of people out there. You've got some people saying, Wallace Lowe, the president here, may have gone rogue, that maybe what he did was the board wanted Durkin, brought him back, said, okay, fine, let the reaction happen, let everybody get into an uproar, and then said, now I'm going to step in and take him out of his job. And by the way, I'm out the next year, so I'm fine. I can do what I need to do. What are you hearing about why this went down the way it did?
Yeah, we saw in the press conference the board recommended that DJ Durkin stayed, and at that press conference, Wallace Lowe never mentioned DJ Durkin by name. It seemed then that was a public statement by Lowe that he was not in support of that decision. He eventually released a statement saying he saw the outpour from the students, the student government, and local politicians, even Governor Larry Hogan, speaking out against the decision to bring DJ Durkin back. And many believe that safeguarded Wallace Lowe. It gave him some confidence to be able to make this decision. I spoke with the family attorney of the McNairs last night, Billy Murphy, and he echoed those statements, that he commended the local politicians for speaking out and giving support to Wallace Lowe, that it ultimately gave him confidence in the ability to fire DJ Durkin. And Murphy went as far as saying that was what Wallace Lowe wanted all along, was to fire Durkin, only given the opportunity to do that now that he had the support of the politicians.
Yeah, it makes a big difference when you have that support and also the public behind you in that move. One more thing, what's expected next in this situation? I understand there's a rally going on today.
There is a rally. That rally initially was going to be to protest bringing DJ Durkin back. The student government has told me that will be now moved to support the team and support the family of Jordan McNair. That's what's next for the students. Matt Canada has released a letter to the parents saying that the players and the families have received unnecessary distractions. They can now move forward and they should focus on what they can control, and that's the football game against Michigan State. So that's where the players are at. But in terms of the McNair family, I spoke again with Billy Murphy, the family attorney, about that, and he's calling for board chair Jim Brady to be removed from his position. He believes he mishandled this entire thing and was an impediment on justice for Jordan McNair. So they're hoping that Jim Brady is removed. And ultimately, the family wants a settlement in this case, and they're prepared to take that to litigation if that's necessary.
We could see more dominoes falling in this situation. Tom, great job reporting out there. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, for some analysis, let's bring in former NFLPA president and writer at The Undefeated, Domonique Foxworth. He also played football at the University of Maryland. Domonique, I got to ask, what is your reaction to this stunning turn of events?
Well, frankly, I'm happy that they made the decision that they made. I've known a lot of these people, including Dr. Lowe, for a long time, so I can't say that I was shocked that they kept him, because when they kind of put him on suspension and held on him for so long, I suspected that they were waiting for kind of the attention to die down and them to bring DJ Durkin back. But it's inexplicable, I think. And Dr. Lowe's comments, it was best for all stakeholders. I'm not necessarily going to pass judgment on the type of person DJ Durkin is or whether he deserves to work again or not. Like, I'm sure he'll find another job, but I do think that it wasn't good for the institution to continue to have this looming over it.
Let me ask you this. I think everybody right now is saying all the right things. I know the players want to show that they are unified, but give me a sense, in your opinion, what it's like in that locker room, because there were a number of players that forcefully defended Durkin when he was put on leave, and there were other guys who were like, we're not going to play with this guy.
Yeah, I mean, I could certainly understand the perspective of both players, because I assume the players who were recruited by Durkin and liked Durkin a great deal, their perception is that Durkin was not at the practice when the player went into a heat stroke, and their perception is probably that he's still a good person and a good coach, which may all be very true. But the other guys recognize that they lost a teammate and lost someone very important to them, and they feel like someone should have to pay a price for that. So I can see both sides, but a team is a team, and there's always going to be friction and conflict between players. They'll find a way to bring it together and play as a group come Saturday.
There has been so much talk about the line in terms of how you motivate guys, how much you push on guys. I'm sure you've been in situations where you've pushed guys. Talk to me a little bit about that and what you think should now happen going forward. What should be the line in that line?
No, I think that it's not just that locker room. It's all locker rooms, frankly, of college and high school athletes. There's always guys every couple of years, high school players, there's always a high school player who dies in some sort of workout. And I think part of the culture of football, not just team by team, but the overarching culture of football, it's born of that you can't take a break for water. Like, you have to fight through everything. If you want to take a break or take a breather or something, you're weak. And somehow these workouts are going to make you tougher and translate to winning games. Like, that's not true. Everyone is working out as hard as they can. There's no competitive advantage to be gained by berating or humiliating your players. And I hope that message is sent, and not only sent, but received in all locker rooms, not just in Maryland.
You know, Matt Canada wrote a letter to players and their families, and basically he said, we hope to move on from this. He said, we will stick together, we will lean on each other, we will continue to honor Jordan, we will play hard as a team, we will make you proud. It's a noble sentiment. Let's move on. Let's go forward. If you were running this program, knowing what they have been through, how would you specifically establish a culture that is one to be proud of in that locker room and gets away from this past?
Sure. I certainly understand the question. I think people believe culture is something that you can kind of plug in and out like a cog, like you can change. No, it's something that you have to cultivate, given, like you hear it in the word. It's something that you have to grow, and you have to grow from what you have, your strengths. And the strengths that it seems like they have now is a lot of strong, opinionated players in that locker room who feel empowered and emboldened enough to do things like walk out on the head coach when he returns. Like, I think their culture should be built around what the players think is important. And I think that's something we've talked a lot about, how this impacts their recruiting by having this reputation. I think that's something else that you can sell in recruiting, is that this program is different because of what happened. We've now are one of the few college football programs that emphasize to a real degree what the players want and what matters to them. I think that's a culture that they can build on, and they can create a culture based around that, not based around what the coach's desires are, which is what every other college football program does.
All right, and we'll see what happens with that culture change there in Maryland. Domonique, thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you.
Well, coming up, a major move in the WNBA. The heads of both the league and the WNBA's Players Association join us next.
I think smoking always affected my daily life because I was a closet smoker. It really sort of controlled my entire day. My boss is the one that recommended Juul, so I decided to give it a try. You don't get any of the odor of smoking. There's no ash all over your car. I would say give it a try.
Get the flavor and satisfaction of smoking without the mess of cigarette ash or lingering odor. Switch to Juul. Check out JUUL.com/sports. If you don't smoke or vape, don't start.
Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
In today's B Block, a major move involving the WNBA. Just moments ago, the Women's National Basketball Players Association elected to opt out of their collective bargaining agreement with the league. Now, while this decision won't impact the 2019 season, a new CBA would need to be in place before the 2020 season to prevent a work stoppage. This is happening at a time where the WNBA is on the rise. During the regular season, the league experienced a 35% increase in viewership over last year. And on ESPN2, ratings for the Storm's championship clincher was up 33% from the 2017 clincher. The most watched game this past season, the Sparks and Storm on June 28th, drew an audience of 382,000 viewers. But the salaries and travel conditions of WNBA players pale in comparison to those afforded their NBA counterparts. And that's just some of the issues the players may look to address before signing on the dotted line of the next CBA. So let's bring in the Los Angeles Sparks' Nneka Ogwumike. She is the president of the Women's National Basketball Players Association. Nneka, so glad to have you with us. My biggest question for you is, why did you choose to opt out?
Well, thanks for having me, Ryan. It's a pleasure to be on here. To be very honest, we came to this decision not overnight. It was definitely a deliberate choice, but not with a lot of information. So we really wanted to make sure that we made the appropriate decision to bring the conversation to the table of strength and fairness for us in the league.
What are your primary issues?
Well, we've had a lot of outspoken players talking about a lot of things that we want. But for us, it's about the overall player experience. The game isn't the game without us. And foundationally, I think we can work together with the league to create some infrastructural changes that will really enhance both the player experience and the game.
When you talk about overall player experience, I think the mind wanders to salary, first of all. Are you looking for pay increases?
It's easy to say that, and I mean, it's quite obvious as well, with a lot of people putting salaries in the conversation. But I think that also starts with how the business is run. All we hear, as you said, numbers are up. A lot of people are watching. The play is more skillful and more exciting. So we want to be able to match that with how the business is run and hopefully elevate all of the teams in the entire league to match exactly the product that's being put out.
So, Nneka, we know that when we see these kinds of issues come up in collective bargaining agreement between leagues and players, leagues oftentimes will say, look, the money isn't there. The WNBA, according to some numbers, has lost a lot every year of its existence. There are reports that it lost $12 million last year. In that kind of climate, how do you ask for those increases? How do you craft something that gets the players what they need, but also contributes to the health of the league?
Right. I mean, it's a valid question. We have to ask the league the information that's available for us to be able to completely assess and diagnose exactly what the issues are. We want to be able to understand what is working and what isn't working. And we think as players, we can partner with them to help figure that out to make it a win-win for everybody.
It's interesting that you talk about completely assessing and diagnosing the situation. What aren't you seeing that lets you do that?
I think we just want to make sure that we have official documents to give us an informed decision. We made sure that we wanted to make sure that this opt-out decision was something that was an educated choice. As some may know, we offered an extension to the opt-out period to allow the league to give us more time, both them on both sides, both them and us on both sides, to make a great decision, because we also know that they're dealing with changing leadership with our president.
Much has been made of the G League salary increases recently. There was talk that there will now be a class of G League players that will make $125,000. That's a little bit more than the maximum salary for WNBA stars. What did you make of that when you heard that news?
Well, for me, I'm never opposed to any elite athlete being invested in. That's amazing. That's kind of what we want to see. We're excited as a league because the game is changing. A lot of more people are watching, and it's exciting. And we want to understand, and we want everyone to know that we also deserve that type of investment. It's all about aligning with everybody.
There have been many stories about the travel situation in the WNBA. I recall the Las Vegas Aces earlier this year having to forfeit, or basically saying they couldn't play a game because they were on the road something like 26 hours in a row of travel, got there 4 hours before tip-off, said they couldn't play for the sake of their bodies. Ended up that the league had them forfeit a game, and they ended up missing the playoffs by a game. What needs to be addressed in terms of player travel?
I mean, I think player travel is obviously something that a lot of players are speaking on, and it's very obvious that it can change for the benefit of our player experience. But I think we also have to understand that it's analogous to what we're still considering for the CBA. That all comes into play under this grand umbrella of, okay, let's consider health and safety, let's consider the player experience, and we can work together with the league to enhance that and elevate everybody so that the league can be exactly where we want it to be and to progress forward. It doesn't stop there. We're just trying to bring the conversation to the table.
If you could sum up your message to the league in one sentence, what would that be?
We all want the same thing.
All right. All right. Yeah. There you have it. Nneka, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Ryan. I appreciate it.
Okay, let's turn now to another friend we've got right here. Lisa Borders stepped down recently as president of the WNBA in October to become the president of Time's Up, and that's why we have this gentleman on, Mark Tatum, NBA Deputy Commissioner. He's also the WNBA interim president. Mark, so good to see you. So, Mark, you heard, I think, what Nneka was just saying. You heard her message to the league. What's your sense of that?
Thank you, Ryan, for having me. And I agree with Nneka. I couldn't agree with her more that we all want the same thing. We have the same vision for this league. Our athletes, Nneka, who I saw this week in Las Vegas, along with Sue Bird, another executive committee member, we all want this league to thrive. We all want it to be great. This league features the world's greatest athletes, and not only athletes, but multidimensional people. And so I agree with Nneka's message that we all want the same thing, to grow this league into a league that's thriving.
Hey, Mark, I think whenever, and I mentioned this to Nneka as well, whenever you have a collective bargaining agreement, you always have each side saying different things about the financial situation. It just seems like a fact of life these days. What is the financial picture right now of the WNBA? Is it thriving? Is it in trouble? What is the situation?
Well, as you said, Ryan, earlier, the league has sustained incredible losses over from the inception 22 years ago, including a $12 million loss just last season. But those are investments that the NBA is making. And what I would say is that the Players Association has all of those financials. They have access to that. We've shared it with them. And what we are looking forward to doing is having a fully open, transparent, and engaging discussion around the business realities that exist in the league. But the Players Association has all those financials. We've made everything available to them, and we will continue to operate in a very transparent manner.
Okay, I'm glad you said that because the devil is in the details. You feel that they have everything that you have with respect to the financial picture?
Absolutely. We've shared all of that information with the Players Association and look forward to having that conversation with the executive committee and with the players directly around the realities of the business.
You mentioned the idea of investment, how the NBA invests. We know that the WNBA is 50% owned by the NBA. If salaries are an issue, if money is an issue, wouldn't it be possible to just say to the NBA, can you invest more for the help of building up this league, giving more to the players?
Well, as you mentioned, Ryan, the NBA owns, and our teams own 50% of the WNBA. And then of the 12 WNBA owners, 5 of those are NBA owners and NBA team owners. So in essence, NBA teams and the NBA really own about 70% of the WNBA. And over the last 22 years, we've been investing more than any other professional sports league, I would argue, has invested in women's sports. And that the vast majority of those investments and the vast majority of those losses are actually made by the NBA and our NBA teams. Just in the time that the WNBA has been in existence in 22 years, 7 other women's professional sports leagues have come and gone. And they haven't had the support of an organization like the NBA and our teams and the team owners to invest in that. So I would say that, that the NBA and our teams have been investing an incredible amount. And we look forward to continuing to invest, to grow revenues, to grow this league. What I'd say we need, Ryan, is we need more fan support. We need more corporate marketing support to join us.
More people coming
in. The investments. Absolutely. We can't be the only ones making the investment. There have to be others that join.
It's a good point. I want to ask you, we have a couple more seconds left. I have to ask you about this, the travel issue. Big issue. It's a very public issue right now for the WNBA. How would you solve that?
Well, I think it's a conversation with the players. We've already engaged with them on certain areas of travel, things like TSA pre-check and the whole experience. But it's something that we've already started engaging with the players on and look forward to addressing their needs directly on that.
But players sleeping in airports, having to forfeit game situations like that, will that be a future that they'll have to face?
Well, look, we're going to do everything to avoid that situation. That one situation with the Aces, I think, was unique. We pushed the game back and delayed it, and they chose to not play that game. But it's something that we're going to be discussing along with a host of other issues with the players.
Mark, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time. We'll be right back.
As a young boy, Gavin loved playing football. He lived and breathed it, wanted to go pro. Why, he'd spend hours upon hours just practicing his touchdown dances. And one day, while getting fitted for bifocals, he realized he was never much good at throwing, or running, or catching, or even kicking. Yeah, Gavin's chances of playing pro football were looking like 4th and long. Very long. But he did hear how Geico could save him money on car insurance, so he switched and saved. Then he did kind of a touchdown dance. At least he was still good at that.
Tonight, 10:30 Eastern, MLS playoffs are on ESPN2. LAFC against Real Salt Lake. This match and many other playoff matches are also on the ESPN app. That's it for us today. NFL Live is next.